Hi, this is Joe Davis with GotBaseballCards.com. I'm a lifelong sports card collector and hobby veteran for over 30 years. We are very excited to offer you this channel to provide you the finest in sports card news and entertainment. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, and welcome back to Sports Cards with Joe.
And Doug.
And Doug, today we've got a nice array of some modern boxes out here, brand new releases. And guess what? We're not going to talk about any of them.
Oh, what? You teaser.
Today we're talking 1980s baseball.
Oh,
this is a throwback episode, and we're going to be talking the buyer's guide and maybe the grader's guide to 1980s baseball. And guess what? There's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot.
Well, you say buyer's guide. I'm thinking more seller's guide, because there are people out there that have a lot of 80s and 90s cards. And so we wanted to help let them know what cards in particular might be valuable.
Yeah, I call it, we're going to help them pick out the diamonds in the rough.
The needle in the haystack.
That too.
Come on.
How many analogies can we come up with? The shot in the dark. No, it's not quite. Not quite. All right, so we're going to start all the way back to 1980. I opened many of those packs as a 12-year-old, 1980 Topps of baseball. And we're just going to kind of hit the highlights, and we're not even going to focus on the traded sets today, because typically when people bring in 80s collections to us, it's the leftovers of stuff that they opened, you know, or their dad opened, or their grandfather, whoever it is. And so we're going to try to talk about some of the most commonly found key cards, normally rookies, from the 1980s era.
Well, you put an S on the end of that. Some years only have one key card.
And it's a struggle sometimes to find that. So we're going to hit the highlights, just the biggest cards. These are ones that when people send in 1980s collections, these are the ones we call out that, yep, you might want to grade this one if it's in good shape, which is also, of course, a challenge.
Absolutely.
So let's start off with 1980 Topps, the last year before there were other companies. And, of course, the Ringleader, Big Ricky Henderson card, 482. This card has sold for 5 figures in PSA 10. Have a sad story. I owned one of these way back in the day.
PSA 10?
PSA 10. The time I believe there were 2 graded. It was year 2000. I sold it at the National for $8,500, and that was a lot of money in 2000 for a 1980 card. But we sure wish I had that one back. So, but 1980 Ricky Henderson. There's your big card for 1980 Topps.
That's it.
That's pretty much it.
That's it.
I mean, yeah, there's some Hall of Famers, Nolan Ryan, et cetera, but when you're talking about key rookies, when somebody brings in a 1980 set, that's the card I flip to. I want to see card 482. All right, moving on to 81 baseball Topps, Fleer Donruss, mainly Topps, because there's not nearly as much demand for graded stuff in the Fleer and Donruss. So really about all we've got in there is the triple rookie of Tim Raines and the triple rookie of Fernando Valenzuela. Now,
how about Harold Baines?
Yeah, little demand there.
No,
a little bit of demand there.
Say no.
Well, the challenge with the Raines and Valenzuela is they're so often way off center. Of course, you got Kirk Gibson rookie too, but I think that the strongest in the highest grades are the Raines and Valenzuela, because they are super tough. And so there's ones you want to dig out. Let's move on to 82. This one's pretty common. Everybody knows 82.
Cal Ripken Jr., I think at 21, card 21.
Yeah, it's a triple rookie. And then, of course, he had the traded rookie, which we're not focused on, but it is more valuable. But
only because it's rarer.
There's much tougher.
So much fewer of them out there. But the base triple Ripken is still awesome card. That's definitely one. The Henderson, so far I'm listening to you, Henderson in 80 and Ripken in 82 is what I've heard so far.
Yeah, the others are minimal, yeah, as far as a typical collection. Unless you bring it in a PSA 10 already, then we'll talk, right? So and same with Fleer and Donruss. Ripken is really your biggest one. Lee Smith is also in there, but your big rookie, of course, is the Ripken. Now, 83 gets a little more interesting. We've got the big 3. With Wade Boggs, Ryan Sandberg, and of course Tony Gwynn, and they are each. And there's Gary Gaetti as well, but there's your big 3. There's your big 3. So, and they are all in all 3 sets. Mm-hmm. So you've got 3 very popular cards. Gwynn is the most popular of all of them. But those are the guys you want to look for. If you've got 83 Topps or Fleer Donruss sets laying around, that's the guys you want to dig out. So 84.
So you go from, so far in 80 to 83, you've got a bucket of cards. You're only going to find a stack this big of anything that really would be important and to determine if it might be valuable to grade.
Right. Yep.
Just trying to make sure it's understandable.
Under 1%. Under 1% of the cards
There are
made.
a lot of cards made, even in the early 80s. So, yeah, just those few cards so far.
Yeah. All right, we move up to 84, and of course we've got Donnie Baseball.
Don Mattingly, awesome. That's a great one. Another one that would go in the Ripken Henderson stack. And Gwen. Gwen's one of my all-time favorites. I love that card.
And again, his most iconic of those is the 84 Donruss, because people love the 84 Donruss set. The first big boom I remember as a kid in the late 80s, that was the card to own, was an 84 Donruss Mattingly. And he is in the Fleer and the Tops as well that year.
We had Gooden.
Well, he was only in the traded,
okay,
so yeah.
Still not anyone else in 84 that you can think of.
Not to worry about like pulling out for grading or anything, no.
Gotcha.
So 85 Tops, we do have Gooden. We've got, it's so funny, I remember this as a kid, and I want to go, and Eric Davis, because as a kid, that was the guy I was chasing, was Eric Davis. Of course, yeah, you've got Gooden, really, but your bigger ones are, of course, Puckett and McGuire.
Right.
But even so, in the Tops, they're just not that pricey. Yeah. Not ungraded, they're not.
I really did enjoy some of Nat's video the other day about PSA, and specifically how he was talking about the values. There are just some cards, there are so many produced. And when you start getting into 85, we know there's way more than 84, and 83, it just was a big curve of production. And that's really the only reason that, I mean, you can get a really good McGuire right now, a 9, for probably $100, I'd imagine.
They're not nearly what they used to be. But 10s are still astronomical.
It's all about supply and demand, and it will average out. And that's what Nat had said about supply and demand,
right.
And so it's hard for people to understand how many cards that were made back then, but that's why there are so few. And the later in these 80s years, I know we just did 85, we got McGuire, we got Puckett, and
of course we do have Clemens as well.
Clemens.
But again, Clemens always, the throwback is, of course, he was in the 84 Fleer update, which is I think if that's his true rookie, but he is in the 85 Tops as well. So you could say Clemens, Puckett, and McGuire are your big three from there. But again, you can buy any of those raw for like $10.
And then roll into 86.
In 86, you pretty much just roll over, because there's really nobody in 86. I mean, back in the day, you had Canseco was very in demand in 86 Donruss, and Cecil Fielder, but there's just today. I mean, somebody brings in 86 Top set, I'm like, nothing to even look for, nothing to open up.
When I see the black and white coloring on the cards, I slide that box over. Unfortunately, it's just about, there's just so many. We already have, literally, you probably have 1,000 to 10,000 of each one of the cards in that set, because over the years you have bought some of that, a lot of that.
We have dozens and dozens of busted sets and so forth. But so let's move up to 87, where we do have two of the steroid boys, and I know they don't like to be talked of that way, but McGuire and Bonds. Of course, McGuire was in the 85 in his Olympic card, but 87 was his rookie season, and we have the Bonds 87. Both. You've also got
Greenwell and
Palmero. I guess the most. Of course, I'm thinking Tops initially. Let's move over to Donruss, and you do have Greg Maddux. So great, and of course Bonds is in there as well. The Bo Jackson rated rookie. Back in the day, the Will Clark was very sought after. Great story. I remember 1988. I'm at a huge card show with Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Duke Snyder. It was 87.
You guys all hung out, after playing golf?
No, afraid not. I was only 19 at the time, didn't really have much money to spend, so I was going to make a wise investment of my dollars. I wasn't going to get autographs from Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. I was buying up Will Clark rookies.
Oh, well, he's still, yes, that probably wasn't as wise of an investment.
Will the Thrill, but that's who I was buying up at that show, so I still remember it. So Clark, anyway, we've got your biggest ones, of course, are going to be Bonds, Maddox.
I was just teasing about
Yeah.
Greenwell, but yeah. And even, like you said, even the McGuire,
you know-
it's not his first card. It waters that one down. And
Greenwell was the runner-up for MVP in one of those early years. So I
believe
actually
it.
met him.
I honestly,
He
he
wa-
was one of the star
Yeah.
cards from that back in 87, 89.
I remember Hank. I did meet Greenwell and got his autograph, and I said, "You got to get MVP next year." And unfortunately, that was as close as he ever got. So moving on, 88.
88. No, thank you. Oh, wait, what was the question?
We do have Mr. Tom Glabbon rookie cards.
Wonderful.
Braves Hall of Famer.
Wonderful, absolutely.
MVP of the 95 World Series.
I would pay a lot of money for a Glabbon card, but I may be the only one that
Yeah.
would pay a lot of money for a Glabbon card.
Because, 88, man, you talk about mass production. Whew. I think they just stopped printing the Donruss a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
There was so much 88 Donruss made.
I was just showing someone in our retail store, box of 87 tops, box of 88 tops, still at $20 and $30. That's less than what I paid you back. Yeah.
30 years ago, 30-something years
Because
ago.
they were $1. I mean, $36 was roughly what I could buy a
Yeah.
box for, and that was a deal back
Yeah.
then. So yeah, it's just crazy how
Yeah.
many they made.
So yeah, 88, pretty weak. When you talk about the cards that came in the regular products, there's just not much. So much like 86, we just kind of move on. So let's move on to 89.
89 changes things a little bit.
Unfortunately, Topps royally dropped the ball that year.
Was that a pun?
No,
They miss a royal star?
No, they missed a Mariner star and left Griffey out of the regular set. I mean, Upper Deck got it right, Fleer got it right, Donruss got it right. Topps royally dropped the ball that year, left Griffey out of their set.
Bowman got it right.
Yeah.
Which is Topps.
But they didn't get him in their regular Topps issue. Yeah, so the
Even though they
biggest
did-
rookie of the year.
Again, production had not slowed down at that
Oh,
point.
no.
So, and as I've learned, I think Upper Deck may have been the most produced product back in 1989. Just tremendous amount of that card. And unfortunately, the Griffey #1 card is
The perception is how it was the lowest printed. I still think Topps and Fleer and Donruss they printed more of, but there was a lot of Upper Deck made. I do remember, for those who want some insight, I was at an Upper Deck trade conference and they showed some order forms from 1989, a candy wholesaler order form, and it said, "Would you like your 2% discount if you buy over," I think it was 10,000 cases. So you could literally order 10,000 cases at a time.
I don't know.
Could you imagine?
I
wish I had. I wish I'd been around and.
Card companies today, I don't think they give us their production numbers.
No.
But
and they'll
I
say,
would think that
would you like your 1 or 2 case allocation, not your 10,000?
I'm very happy that it still is way more limited than it was back then.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be in our situation that we're in right now.
But yeah,
The whole market.
Who knows how many were really printed? I talked to a gentleman one time, and he told me he owned a warehouse in Kansas, like a 5,000-foot warehouse, and he said it was stuffed to the brim with 89 Upper Deck cases. So who knows if he was just pulling my leg, but I tried to go visit him. But so 89, Ken Griffey Jr. in Upper Deck, card 1. He's in Donruss. He's also in Fleer. And if I remember correctly, he's 33 in Donruss and 548 in Fleer. But it's scary.
I remember he's
card 1
in Upper Deck.
Yeah. So, of course, he was in the Topps traded, and he was in the score traded, but they had missed him in the regular set. So there's pretty much your guide to 80s baseball.
I mean, if we had been keeping scorebook, maybe. Did you keep score last night? Anyway, keeping score, I would guess that you didn't mention more than a dozen cards.
Probably not.
In that range. So
well under, probably 1/3 of 1% of every card printed, of each player printed, has any real.
And again, these are not going to be $10,000 cards either. They're still only some of them in a 10 are still in the $100 range. So still 80s, it's just not there yet. I mean, I don't know that it'll ever change. Maybe if we have even more and more collectors join our wonderful hobby, then some of that inventory will go away, because eventually price, I mean, if there's no demand, then it's always.
Well, I will say the unopened boxes have moved up from their bottom point. I mean, because I remember a guy called me one time. This was years ago, and he's like, hey, I've got a bunch of 80s boxes. Could you give me $1 a box and get them out of my house? And it was $89, $88. Of course, I bought them. But those deals aren't out there anymore. We're happy to buy up that stuff for $5, $10 a box, whatever.
I was just going to say, still $5 a box, Joe. That is.
Oh, I'm thrilled to buy them at that.
That's still unbelievably.
Yeah. Usually, I'm thrilled to buy them at 10 or 15, depending on which ones it is.
I understand, but
so they've grown exponentially from 10 years ago. Yeah. So, but again, our point is there are some diamonds in the rough. There are some needles in the haystack out there. There are some big cards that can be found, but you got to dig deep. You got to do your research. Hopefully, this video provides you a little bit of that information. And
scan through your cards and try to find the ones that we've mentioned, the images that you've seen here. And pull those out. And you can bring the others too, but those are really going to be the only ones that we want to see to determine if there's really any value, to help you out to determine what you have.
Yeah, and again, today we just focus on the pack-pulled cards. We can do another episode focusing on traded sets from 80s and maybe even include the 90s as well. But we wanted to hit on the most commonly found cards in collections that are in your closet or your grandmother's attic or whatever from the 80s. So happy to look at those, but by and large, most of that stuff is so mass produced, there's just not much demand for it.
So we're limiting it to baseball. I don't want to go too deep into basketball or football or any.
Yeah, we'll hit those in other episodes.
But that's a different story. Yeah. Specifically, baseball is what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back with more educational videos. Hope this has been helpful to you. Please subscribe to our channel where you will know every time we post new content. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.